Hello friends, this is Marchelle from Honey Bee Mercantile. Today I'm collaborating with Kristin with Fifth Sparrow No More and Stephanie with House of Fritz. They are hosting a collaboration with a lot of other great creators called Love My Thrifty Flips. So today you'll watch each of us turn something from the thrift store or garage sale into something beautiful for your home. Something more practical than, being thrown in the garbage or thrown away or in the dump or somewhere. So I do thrift flips with my printables. I do design printables and digital downloads. You can find those on my website. I will leave my website information in the description box below. I will be using 2 different printables with my projects today, and I will also leave those links below as well. The playlist will be down below, so we would love for you to watch each creator and share us out and comment. I would love for you to like and subscribe to my channel and turn on that notification bell so you can start seeing my weekly videos. We thank you for being here, and let's get started. Please stay to the end because my favorite project is at the end. It just turned out great, a lot greater than I expected it to. You know how it's like a kind of a happy accident. But anyway, let's get started and I'll check back soon. Okay, friends, here we go. So here are my supplies. This is Antiquing Wax by Waverly. I have Fern by Waverly, scissors, of course, the print, and this is in my website. The thrifted frame, and I got this at Goodwill for less than $3. I think it was something like $2.27 or $2.79. And then I take my sanding block and I start sanding it just to get some of the shine off of it because it was a finished frame. And then here I am painting with the fern. I do have to give it a couple of coats because it's chalk paint, and of course with chalk paint you normally have to do a couple of coats at least. But I'm just using a sponge brush. I like to use a sponge brush because it doesn't leave the brush strokes. I don't really like the brush strokes on my painted surfaces. So what I'm doing here is painting, of course, all sides and then drying it with a heat tool. Of course, flip it over. And I do, like I said, I do 2 coats. So here I'm doing the back with the same process. And I have done thrift flips on frames for years. I just love, this one of my favorite thrift flips is frames. You can always find a frame at the thrift store. And a lot of times, of course, of yard sales. And I've even had frames given to me before. So here I'm just drying that second coat. I love a heat tool. That's one of the best things in crafting, I think. So there it is finished. And I don't do the very inside where the picture or the print goes. Now I'm taking my sanding block and I am sanding this because I want it to look primitive and distressed, because I love me some primitive. And then after I finish sanding it, I take a baby wipe and wipe it off. And then I'm taking the Waverly Antiquing Wax here, and I'm just using a blending brush and going over the frame with that. And then I used a baby wipe at first to wipe it off, but it took too much of the antiquing wax off. So it's really your preference. It's however much you want on there. If you want a lot of the wax left on there, then when I did it the second time, I used a napkin. You probably really need to use like a soft cloth, and I didn't have one close by because you know how it is when you're crafting. It's like, oh, I forgot that. So I just used what I had. So I used a napkin and did took it off. Like I said, I put it all over, let it sit for a second, and then I wipe it back. That way it's down in the grooves of the frame. And so I just went back over that a couple of different times with antiquing wax, and then kept wiping it back until I got a finished look that I liked. And also, when you sand it, that antiquing wax goes down in that part where it's sanded, so it kind of darkens that up and gives it a more rich look. So here I'm just kind of showing you, I'm sorry it's not a closer view, but kind of showing you what the antiquing wax, what the finish it gives it. So I thought it was really pretty. So here it's time to cut the print out. I've got it printed on rice paper, and I did struggle with this a little bit because I didn't notice this, but when I had my print laying there, I actually that's what I'm doing here is I'm drying it with a heat tool because I laid it against a baby wipe. So I kind of struggled. Rice paper will not cut when it's wet. You have to rip it. So I tried and tried with that. So anyway, I got through that debacle. And here I'm putting the glass back in the frame. I cleaned it. Of course, I cleaned the frame before I painted it and everything. Cleaned the glass. And a lot of times, I don't even like to use glass because of the glare. And you can see that in the end whenever I do the overview of both of my projects. Because when you're trying to, and you can see my ring light there in the glass. So honestly, I would rather do it without the glass, but just for the video purpose, I'll just put it back in there. Also, I didn't cut my print small enough, so I had to trim it just a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing there. But yeah, with the glass, I mean, that's totally your choice. So if you want to do the glass, that's totally fine. But most of the time, I prefer to go without the glass just because of the glare. So I've got the print in there finally, got it trimmed down to fit. And then here I'm just putting it back in the frame. So this was a very quick and easy thrift flip. I love the green paint. There's another YouTuber that I follow. Isn't that beautiful with that sheet print? And here I'm zooming in on the distressed finish on that. But I know green sells. I follow Ginger Chick Rehab, and she does a lot of green. And I love her projects. And she said green really sells well for her. So I'm going to put this in my booth. I do have a booth. Hey, what'd you think about that project? That was one of the most simplest thrift flips that you can do is buy a picture frame, paint it, it gives it a new life, and then add a printable to it. And you could even, I kept it very simple with the paint and then with the, antique wax. But you can also add a bow to it. You can add words to it or a hang tag, twine. You can do anything else to it, other embellishments. But that was just a very simple thrift flip. I just wanted to show y'all how easy it was to take a picture frame from the thrift store and turn it into something beautiful. And I love primitive frames like that with the antique wax. It just makes it look old and like it's been sitting in the attic for years. But I hope you liked it. And let's get started with the next one. This one is my favorite. This one is something I got at the thrift store as well. And like I said, it is my favorite, and it turned out so much better than I expected. So let's get on to that one, and I'll check back soon. Okay, friends, on this one, I got this little bucket at the thrift store for 50 cents. So we're going to do Mod Podge. This is the paint again, and I think I called it fern earlier, but it's actually moss. And then here's Waverly Antiquing Wax. There's the bucket. It's just a small little bucket. And then, of course, my sponge brush and scissors. And these are Dollar Tree picks, little egg twine picks, Spanish moss, and then a set of my labels. And I'll leave the link for those labels in the description below. So here I'm starting out with the fern paint. Actually, I think it's moss. I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember. I'll have to look. But it's Waverly. So I put the first coat on, and then I'm drying it. And then, and be careful because it does get hot because of the metal. And then I put a second coat on and then dried it. And then here I'm putting antiquing wax on it with my blending brush. And so I put that all over. And even, I'll show you here in a minute that I do the handles as well. Then I wipe it back. And this is where I told you a happy accident happened. So right there, it chipped off. I did a freeze frame on that. I was not expecting that to happen because normally when you seal the chalk paint I guess maybe I had too much wax. I don't know. And it may have been because it was metal too, because a lot of times you have to seal stuff that's metal with like a bonding product. But anyway, it was kind of a happy accident because I really love the way that chippy paint turned out with that antique wax on it. Now I'm going over the antique wax with Mod Podge because I'm going to grunge it up with cinnamon. Well, it's not just cinnamon, it's coffee, instant coffee, cinnamon, allspice, and I will leave my recipe for that below. And let y'all have that recipe too that I use on this. But I'm putting Mod Podge all over it. And then I take my cinnamon, my grunge mixture, and then I just kind of sprinkle it mostly around the top and the bottom just to give it like a rusty look because I love that. And I'm sorry, I'm a little out of frame here. But I mainly do it on the top and the bottom, because that's usually where, the bucket would rust. But then I kind of sprinkle a little bit over the whole can, not the whole can, but just like in the middle part. And then I take my heat tool and I dry that, excuse me, because some of it will, of course, brush off some of the cinnamon, the grunge mixture. And I really love doing this on jars as well. I don't know if y'all do this, but I love doing it on jars. So here I'm just continue drying the bucket and the Mod Podge. And then if you can see there, here's the close up again. I love this finish. And I also do a freeze frame right here. Look at that. I love, love, love that finish. It's just, to me, it's gorgeous. That's why this is my favorite, because of the finish. And then also, if you notice, I grunged the handle as well because it looked too shiny. So I put Mod Podge on it, and then I grunged it. Then here's my set of labels, and they are self-adhesive. So I printed those in self-adhesive. I cut those out. Here I'm adhering it to the bucket, but I also go over it to seal it on there because with the wax on there, it may not stick very well. Here I'm going over the edge of the label with an antiquing wax, kind of wipe that back and blend it in with a baby wipe. Now I'm taking my grunge mix and going around the label to make that more primitive and blending that in as well. And then I take Mod Podge and go over that label again. And then once I've got that dried and finished, I fill the can with packing paper because I don't want to waste a lot of moss. So I just fill it up so far with packing paper, and then I put the moss in there. And that way you don't use as much moss. So this is Spanish moss. Of course, I usually get it from the Dollar Tree. Then I've got these twine wrapped egg picks from the Dollar Tree. I showed green and yellow at the beginning, but I only ended up using the yellow. And the picks were too long. I tried cutting them back. If you can see there, I'm cutting them off a little bit more. They were too long. Even the shorter pick part would not fit down in there. So I just cut them off completely. And then I laid the eggs in there like that. So there's that part. And then next I get my twine. And I wrap it around my fingers for a few loops. And then I make a bow. And then I kind of unwrap the twine at the end. See there what I've done on the ends with that bow. Kind of unwrap the twine so it looks more primitive. Hey there. So what did you think about the bucket? The bucket of eggs with the bunny label. So that bucket, I had every intention of just sticking the label on it, but I thought, I'm going to paint that. So when it turned out as chippy and old, it just looked like it was an old, rusty bucket with a chippy paint. I just love the way it turned out. So I hope you did too. I hope you all enjoyed this thrift flip session of mine. And again, this is a collab with Kristin with Fifth Sparrow No More and Stephanie with the House of Fritz. Please check the playlist below and watch the other creators. And again, I would love for you to come back and join my channel and watch for weekly thrift flips and thrift hauls. I will do new printable releases, and I will leave all my social media in the description below. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and my website. And again, I will leave the links to all the printables below as well. So thank you for watching today, friends, and I hope you all will be blessed. Keep creating, and have a great day. Thank you.